He had cleaned her office every night for 2 years. She never knew his name, until the night she stayed late enough to hear him humming, "Amazing Grace." The floors gleamed under the cold fluorescent lights, the silence broken only by the gentle swoosh of a mop and the hum of an old hymn. Elijah moved through the office with practiced grace, his footsteps soft, his presence quieter still. In his 60s, his back ached more than it used to, but his hands moved with pride and care. He paused in the corner office, as he always did, giving special attention to the space that belonged to Grace. She was young, ambitious, and sharp, always typing, always reading, barely looking up from her laptop, even at 9:45 p.m. Most nights, she didn't notice him. To her, he was part of the background, like the hum of the vents or the glare from the city skyline. But tonight was different. She was slumped over her desk, eyes tired, spirit heavier than usual. The sound of his humming drifted in. Slow, rich, and familiar. Amazing Grace. She looked up, startled by how warm and human it sounded in the sterile office. Their eyes met. He gave a soft nod, respectful, kind. For the first time, she really saw him, not the janitor, not a shadow, but a man. And in that small, quiet moment, something in her heart shifted, though she didn't yet know why. The next night, Grace stayed late again, not just because of the deadlines, but because something about the night before lingered with her. She had spent the day thinking about the janitor with the quiet eyes and the voice that filled the room with something she hadn't felt in a while, peace. At 10:37 p.m., right on cue, Elijah entered with his cart, his steps measured, his presence unassuming. Grace hesitated, then cleared her throat. "You have a beautiful voice," she said, half smiling, unsure if she was intruding. He looked up, surprised. "Thank you, ma'am. Just a little song to pass the time." She chuckled nervously. "Well, it stopped me in my tracks." He smiled, warm and real. "Most people are too busy to notice." That made her pause. "I guess I've been one of them." He shrugged gently. "We all get busy. Doesn't mean we can't slow down once in a while." They talked, just for a moment longer than either expected. About music. About late nights. About how the office feels like a different world after hours. She learned his name, Elijah, and he learned hers, even though he already knew it from the brass plaque on her door. There was no dramatic shift, no soaring music, just two people, from vastly different lives, sharing a sliver of connection in the quiet. It felt small, yet strangely significant. For the first time in months, Grace didn't feel alone in her corner office. The following week, Grace found herself looking forward to the late hours, not for the reports or strategy decks, but for the quiet conversations with Elijah. What began as a few polite exchanges grew into something more natural. One night, she brought cold pizza and offered him a slice. He hesitated, then sat down across from her at the break room table, a little surprised by her sincerity. Between bites, she asked, "Elijah, if you don't mind me asking, why do you still work nights? You seem like you should be doing something else. Something more." He wiped his hands with a napkin, then leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "I was a schoolteacher once. Taught high school English for over 20 years, he said, voice low but steady. Grace blinked. "Really?" He nodded. "Lost the job during the recession. Then my wife got sick. Cancer. Took everything we had. After she passed, well, I needed something. Anything. This was the only work I could find that paid steady." She felt a lump rise in her throat. "I'm so sorry." He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't be. It's life. Some seasons are just harder than others. But you keep moving. Clean one room at a time, right?" Grace sat in stunned silence. The man she had overlooked for years had lived more life, carried more loss, and showed more grace than most of the executives on her floor. In that moment, her world tilted. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was extraordinary. Later that week, Grace stayed even later than usual. The office was quiet, the city outside glowing with its usual indifference. Elijah was wiping down her whiteboard when she spoke softly, her voice almost lost in the stillness. "Elijah, do you think we could start right here?" He turned, puzzled. "Start what?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Change. Something better. I mean, we talk about inclusion and community at this company, but it's all words. What if we started with stories? Real ones. Like yours." He stared at her, Mop paused mid-stroke. "I know it's not your job to inspire anyone," she continued, nervously. "But your story, your strength, it matters. And honestly, I think people here need to hear it." He gave a short laugh, not unkind. "I'm just the guy who takes out the trash, Miss Grace." "No," she said firmly, stepping closer. "You're the man who taught me how to see people again. You're the reason I don't feel so lost up here anymore." For a long moment, he was quiet. Then he nodded slowly. "If it helps even one person look around and see someone they've been missing, yeah. We can start right here." There was no applause, no audience, just two people standing on opposite ends of a lifetime, meeting in the middle with hope. And in that quiet corner office, something bigger than either of them had begun. 2 weeks later, the company auditorium was packed, an all-hands meeting, but not the usual kind. The lights dimmed, and Grace stepped onto the stage, her voice calm but charged with something new. She spoke briefly about change, about listening, and then introduced Elijah. He walked up slowly, dressed in his best, an old brown suit, polished shoes, hands steady. The room, full of executives, interns, and managers, fell silent. Most had seen him before, pushing a cart through hallways, never thinking twice. Today, he stood in front of them as someone entirely different. "I used to be a teacher," he began. "I lost a lot over the years. My job. My home. My wife. But I never lost my pride, or my faith in people. Even when they stopped seeing me." He didn't speak with drama. He spoke with truth. He told them about cleaning offices at night, about the peace he found in simple things, and about the night someone finally looked up and asked his name. Grace watched from the front row, her heart full. When Elijah finished, the room erupted, not out of politeness, but genuine, rising applause. Some stood. Others wiped away tears. Later that day, emails flooded Grace's inbox, staff sharing stories, offering support, asking how to help build the change Elijah had inspired. And as he walked out of that building under the warm July sun, Elijah didn't feel like the janitor anymore. He felt seen. Heard. Honored. Because sometimes, the smallest conversations start the biggest revolutions.